I am Sue Webley. Welcome to another episode of Inspire. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Inspire. I am Sue Webley. I'm your host, and I am glad that you are here. I see you coming in. I'm so excited about today's conversation. I'm so excited. So I hope you're able to join us past 11, because I know we're going to go a little bit past 11 o'clock, but I'm excited about our guest, and I'm excited about my co-host. And so I'm going to bring him on before I go and do all the housekeeping. Dr. Elijah Nicholas, who's Executive Director of 100 Black Trans Men, Inc. And so, I got to read the bio because I need you to know all about Dr. Elijah Nicholas, my dear brother. So Dr. Elijah is a veteran senior military officer and 12-time published author, holds a doctorate in business administration, 3 master's degrees, a Bachelor of Science, and a certificate from Harvard Divinity's Executive Education Program. He considers himself to be a lifelong learner. Dr. Elijah is an award-winning and internationally known trans advocate, transgender inclusive family and children's book author, and film actor, director, and producer. Listen, Dr. Elijah uses all the gifts, okay? He is currently co-producing the short film Misunderstood, where he highlights how conscious of and compassion outweigh any biases or beliefs you may have on the personal level. Again, he is the founder of 100 Black Trans Men, Inc., a nonprofit organization with the mission to empower, equip, and elevate the voices, visibility, and representation of Black transgender men. Dr. Elijah is the recipient of the 2021 Trans Life Award, Pioneer of Inspiration. Dr. Elijah can be seen on TV One as a recurring guest journalist, The Steve Harvey Show, and The Book of Sean on Fox Soul. And when Dr. Elijah isn't speaking, advocating, writing, or acting, you can find him spending time with his lovely boxer King Duke and his busy bully queen Tilly, where he lives in Atlanta. And so I am so overjoyed to introduce to you Dr. Elijah Nicholas.
Sister, what's up?
It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for saying yes to co-hosting this panel discussion with me. I know you were on Inspire before, and it's so good to see you again. We go a little way back, and listen, it's always a joy to be in your presence. How are you this morning?
I am absolutely amazing. I'm feeling great. Happy Saturday, happy Inspired Day, just like happy fall, happy joy. It's always a pleasure to be in your company, sister.
Oh.
I was trying to think the other day how long we have known each other, and then I started thinking about the number of years, and I was like, oh, it really don't matter. We've been knowing each other forever.
forever before this iteration of you.
Yes. I love it.
So what are you sipping on? I got to ask, what are you sipping on this morning?
Today, I got my Happy Dance cup, and I am sipping on a little electrolyte, some BioLite this morning, because I'm going to the gym after we finish, so I'm getting ready, to sweat.
Okay. All right, get ready to sweat. So, listen, if any of you watching has been here any amount of time, I got coffee in my cup. I am drinking some mushroom coffee. Oh, I got to show my cup. Okay, so all Black Lives Matter. This is my cup.
Love it.
All Black Lives Matter. And this, thank you, my sister Allie, for making this cup for me. I was in North Carolina, and I was like, oh my God, I want an All Black Lives Matter cup. And then the next thing I knew, I had one in my hand. So thank you, Allie, for making this cup for me. It says Pride on the other side and All Black Lives Matter. And I have some mushroom coffee that my sibling, Dr. Rainier, turned me onto, and it is amazing. And if you want the link for that, I will drop it in the chat. I will drop that link in the chat. So let me take a sip while I do all of that.
I want the link for that, please. And if I say I want one of those All Black Lives Matter cups, will it appear for me too?
So listen, we're gonna work that out. We're gonna work that out to make sure that you get one. Make sure that you get one. And maybe we'll do a giveaway.
Yes. You know what, Ken? I would like to change mine up just a little bit. See, there I go change it. I'm gonna put it in the request trying to change it. But I would like my cup to say All Black Trans Lives Matter. We're gonna get into that discussion. Yeah, we're gonna talk about it.
Yes, we will talk about it. As a matter of fact, I'm hopefully Allie's watching today. If she's not watching right now, she will jump on and we'll make sure that happens. As a matter of fact, let's do a giveaway for All Trans Lives Matter tumbler. And I am going to let me set that up right now. So y'all give me a second. Let me set that up so that we can do a drawing at the end of the panel.
Come on, see how we manifested the cup and now somebody was like to pour out the blessings too. I love it.
So all you have to do is type the hashtag inspire. Type the hashtag inspire for your chance to win a all black all trans lives or all black trans. Which one do you want?
All Black Trans Lives.
All Black Trans Lives Matter. All Black Trans Lives Matter. So put in the hashtag inspire to have a chance at winning your own All Black Trans Lives Matter tumbler. Amen. All right, I see you, Jackson. Good morning. I see you. Listen, Jackson is my classmate from NTSO out here in Ohio. Listen, y'all know I'm just a Rolling Stone child. I done moved out to Ohio, y'all. And so Jackson is one of my classmates. So Jackson, thank you for joining us today. Angie Harvey, my dear sister, thank you for hanging out with us. Oh my goodness. What are you sipping? Oh yeah, Angie's sipping on some Propel mango flavor. Mango flavor Propel. The Quita is on. I know she's getting ready to have some coffee in her cup in a little while. Listen, do us a favor and share this broadcast this morning. I want to make sure that you are connecting, following, liking, and subscribing. So we are at Cara Solutions LLC on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. And Inspired by Cara on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, you can head over to our websites at www.cara-solutions.com or www.getinspired.live to sign up for our newsletter so that you're not missing anything that's happening with Cara Solutions or Inspire. Also, you can listen later. If you missed any of our previous broadcasts and you want to take it with you, listen later on Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. We are on Inspired by Cara on all of those platforms. Need to get that out of the way. I see y'all coming in. Shout out where you are watching from. And also put what you are sipping on. So what have you been up to before I bring our guest on, because I'm so excited about this? Can you tell us a little bit about what's been happening with 100 Black Trans Men?
Let me tell you, we have been up to so much. We are global now. I'm happy to say that we're global. You mentioned thank you. You mentioned our mission, and I just want to repeat it, if that's okay. Yes. Our mission is to empower, equip, and employ the voices, visibility, and representation of Black transgender men specifically. And we do this in a few ways: through mentorship, through leadership development, and through corporate and community engagement. It's a very specific mentoring program. We're mentoring leaders, Black trans men, to become leaders in our communities, in our government, in our faith spaces, and globally. And so, we have been in a lot of health equity spaces because what we realized very quickly in the mentoring program is that these amazing young folks were not just young, because, I'm young too. That's relative. But these amazing individuals were were all in the program, right? And then life started happening. And what we realized very quickly is that there's so many racial and health inequities that exist for our Black trans masculine population that my I kind of pivoted towards the health equity space. And so we've been looking at a lot of reproductive justice, sexual health justice, and things that we just don't have a voice at the table right now. So we're doing a lot of things, and so much more to come that we'll be announcing in the coming months.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for all of the amazing work that you're doing. And honestly, I couldn't have thought of a better co-host for today for this conversation that we are getting ready to the journey on Black and trans in America and beyond. And so we're getting ready to introduce our guests. And so Dr. Elijah is going to do that. And we are going, listen, we're happy that you're here again. Please share, because we're getting ready to have a wonderful conversation. Go ahead, Dr. Elijah.
Yes, so we have some amazing guests. I'm going to read their bios here. Tahtianna Fermin, founder and CEO of Bridges for Life. Tahtianna Fermin is a force for positive change in the lives of teens and young adults facing challenges on the streets and in foster care. As a member of the National LGBTQ Workers Center's New York City chapter and the president of the New York chapter, Tahtianna is dedicated to empowering LGBTQ individuals in the workplace, fighting against discrimination, and advocating for economic justice. With her weekly transgender support group and extensive community activism, Tahtianna embodies the spirit of transformative leadership. Wow, what a powerhouse. And next we have Reverend Yunus Coldman. A true trans spiritual leader, Reverend Yunus Coldman brings a wealth of experience and unique perspectives to our panel. As the CEO of Soulful Touch Services and an ordained interfaith minister, he stands at the intersection of faith, gender, and race. Reverend Yunus is a powerful advocate for the transgender community, serving as the Northeast Regional Coordinator of the Trans Saints for the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries, TFAM, an associate pastor at Rivers of Living Water UCC, and holds key roles in various LGBTQI plus organizations. His journey, including a late life gender transition, showcases his commitment to authenticity, inclusion, and the divine love he shares with those seeking his counsel. Wow, we are about to go to church, y'all. Nala Simone Toussaint, visionary creator and advocate. Nala Simone Toussaint has transformed grief into activism. Focused on addressing racial and gender-based violence, Nala has served as an advocacy coordinator, executive director, and council co-chair, creating spaces for trans women of color. Currently, as the TGNB Health Advocacy Coordinator at Callan Lord Community Health Center, she guides organizations toward a more profound commitment to gender and racial equity. As the founder of Reuniting of African Descendants Road, Nala's work extends globally through initiatives challenging norms and providing vital resources for the trans community. Y'all, we are about to have a powerful conversation. Let's welcome Nala, Reverend Yunus, and Tahtianna, our guests today.
Amen. Thank you all for joining us. And right before we get into our conversation today, let's give some honor where honor is due in remembering our Black trans siblings who have been taken from us in just this year alone. I when I was putting creating this video last night, it was just so heartbreaking. I wanted to be intentional about placing why they were taken from us. They didn't. Our siblings didn't die from natural causes, right? And I don't think that there are a whole lot of people that don't understand, right? Uh, why don't understand how this impacts our community. Yes, I see you, Dr. Lulu. Dr. Lulu said this is triggering for me. And so I do want us to take a moment. This is why the work that you're going to hear about today is so vitally important. Those of you who have joined us, this is why the work is important. Because our siblings are being gunned down, stabbed, run over. This is why a Trans Awareness Week is necessary. This is why a Trans Day of Remembrance is necessary. All Black trans lives matter. And I'm so grateful for the work that these individuals are doing. So I appreciate your vulnerability and your transparency in this moment. I honor your tears, Tahtianna.
I'm sorry.
No, sorry. We honor your tears.
Absolutely. I think, Sue, what I appreciate most about this moment is your recognition and appreciation for the moment and allowing the moment to be, because oftentimes we watch a video or we talk about the statistics and we just keep going. And so thank you for allowing space for this moment, because moments like this help us. As much as it hurts, it helps us heal, right? And that's a part of the healing journey. So thank you.
Dr. Lulu,
Am I
you're
in the? Am I?
Go ahead.
Oh, what I was. I think one of the things that they say, I don't know who they are, is the loss of a child. Of all the losses you can have, the loss of a spouse, the loss of a sibling, the damage between The lost child is the one that most people cannot really reach. And of a 25-year-old trans woman who just happens to be Black as well. Um, I don't want to see these things. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia years ago. It's just a constant trigger, just nonstop. It's like it's nonstop, just poking. So um, as much as I'm loud and I'm a radical and I have no apologies for that, I just don't want to see people's kids dead. So now could be the next one. I can't say that without. So I personally don't want to watch it. Do. I can't without thinking that my child is the next face. So I appreciate the space, but if we're going to be talking about that, I don't think I can stay. I just can't.
It's okay. It's okay. And we honor that. It was important. We will be talking about the work that all of the organizations that are represented here are doing on behalf of Black trans individuals. But I could not, in good conscience, do this panel without honoring those that have been robbed from us. So I thank you, Dr. Lulu, and I honor if you cannot stay, I honor that. If you can stay, I honor that as well. I thank you for your vulnerability and your transparency in this moment. And I thank all of you who have joined us. I see you all. Thank you for hanging out with us on Inspire today. We are Let's get into our conversation a little bit. I wanted to put this up on the screen, and then Dr. Elijah, you can start with the first question. But I wanted to put this up on the screen because, again, driving home that this is what we're dealing with. These are all the reasons why these organizations exist. And I'm sure that we wish that we didn't have to do some of this work, right? But organizations that are represented here are necessary. And so I just wanted to kind of put that up, drive that home before we get into our conversation today. 88% in 2023. So we're getting ready to be the end of 2023. 88% of victims were people of color. 72% were killed with a gun. 52% were Black transgender women. 48% were misgendered or dead named by authorities or the press. 47% of victims, right, with a known killer were killed by a romantic sexual partner, friend, or family member. Go ahead, Dr. Elijah.
Yes, thank you for that, and thank you for sharing that statistic. And I want to just thank everybody for being here today, being vulnerable, and being in this what we hope to ultimately be a healing space, right? And I honor your perspective that you shared, Dr. Lulu, and the parents are. A demographic that we don't talk enough about and with. And so I know that you know how important you are, but I want to re-emphasize how important you are to help galvanize, support, and heal our parents. So thank you all. And I want to just start with Tahtianna, and then we'll go to the good Rev, and then Dr. Lulu, and we'll go around from there, and then Nala, you can share. If you all could just give our audience insights into your mission and critical initiatives of your organization. How are you championing these things locally, nationally, and internationally? What do you do? What do you want people to know about your organization? You gotta unmute Tahtianna, please. Thank you.
Okay, well, Hello, everyone. Sorry, my voice over here all cracking. I didn't think it was going to be this emotional. um, so our mission is simple. Helping TGS community that's coming out of foster care system. Uh, Black trans sex workers are unfortunately still surviving through sex work. Indigenous people that's coming from all over the world seeking asylum, and cisgender people that are families of the TGS community that we serve. on a local on a local base, we have our programs that we try to provide strategically, because as a nonprofit organization that caters to the community that's coming out of foster care system, it's obvious that the majority of them grow with no parents, no loved ones to help them to get through the simple things that we learn at home, which is learning how to dress for an interview, knowing the things to say when you're going for your first job, obtaining your driver's license, your permit, uh, all the things that you would learn in a household. Uh, Getting the girls from the community that unfortunately are living with HIV connected. Sex work and HIV is a big thing, and it's a big stigma among the girls. So just providing interventions, like the twist intervention, to galvanize the girls and to get them to commune and to provide sisterhood to one of each other, is what we do. One of the three things we do on a local basis, of course, providing food, clothing, all the things that other organizations do. On a global aspect, I am Dominican and Haitian, and in my country, life for a transgender woman is not easy at all. Since we've started Bridges for Life, unfortunately, we are highly underfunded and barely can do much. We do the little bit that we do with the little bit that we get. Um, Sometimes actually doing it for free without getting to pay ourselves out. Sometimes I go into my own pocket. And I thank all my team that, it's like when I first started this organization, I was the only one going into my own pocket. And it seems like everybody's seeing the love that I got for the organization and seeing everything come together. They go into their own pockets too. I thank everybody for helping me with the work that we're doing. But to speak to global, I haven't been able to help globally, and that was doing something to me, because as I'm helping the community here where I'm from, I also want to help the community where I'm from back home. So we started a campaign that's called Tierras con Casas a mis raíces, and that pretty much stands for land with houses and my roots. That campaign will be pretty much fundraising to help restorative land justice, and back in Haiti and the Dominican Republic to just help on a global aspect. Oh, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for your vulnerability. I'm grateful that you feel comfortable being vulnerable here in this moment. So thank you. Rev, tell us
Yes, good
about yourself and your
afternoon.
organization.
Yes, so I want to first say, I feel my sisters. I feel my sisters because for Black trans men, it's different. For us, it is more around our demise. Unfortunately, is more around suicide, self harm. Uh, you know, it's not the same. But I always want to put my heart out there for my sisters because this shouldn't be. We shouldn't even be having this conversation. We shouldn't be having this panel. None of this should be happening. And every year it goes on and on and on. And it saddens me. It saddens me. It hurts me to my core, that we still have to do this, that we still have to have this conversation, that we still have to have these memorials. It shouldn't be. So I just want my sisters to know the brothers are here for you as well. We're not you. We don't walk in your shoes, but we're here. We are here. Part of my mission personally as a minister and a pastor is to let you know that as a minister, we're here. I am here for you. There is a lack of clergy that are public facing in our community. How does one know the love of any deity if we're not there to give that and show that love? And I know I'm not trying to preach, Sue. I'm not. However, when I see my sisters upset like this, it hurts me. So I want you to know, even though we don't feel the pain exactly as you do, we feel it. And we want to be here. And clergy, where are you? Should I say it again? Where are you? Someone took issue with me the other day. I'm sorry, I'm going off this a little bit if it's okay. And I apologize if I'm just doing it the wrong way.
You go ahead.
I was asked by I was asked by someone, why do I call myself the Black trans masculine pastor for the trans community in New York? Who said that I could be that? The community said I could be that.
Mm-hmm.
The community said that. They call me Rev. They call me Pastor. They call me Pop. How is that so? Because I show up. I show up. Rallies, protests, memorials. I show up. Where is clergy? Where are you? It hurts my heart that I go to a rally and I feel wanted and loved and all that because they come to me and they say, Rev, we're so glad that you're here. But I shouldn't be the only one. Right. Why is it just me? Why is it just me? But anyway, my children, and I know I'm old enough to be some of y'all's pop, okay? I'm just letting you know. I am here for you if no one else is. All right. Reach out if you need me. But anyway, I'm an ordained interfaith minister. And with the Fellowship of Affirming Ministries, as has been said, I'm a co-facilitator, and I'm also the Northeast Regional Coordinator for Trans Saints. And that is a community of transgender faith leaders involved in various forms of advocacy, focused on the unique perspectives and needs of the African American transgender community. I'm also associate pastor at Rivers of Living Water, UCC. And in addition to that, I am co-director for Flow, which is Fluid Lovers of Worship. That is also a trans-led ministry at Rivers. And we are a Christ-centered, radically inclusive, open and affirming spiritual family of TGN, NB, brothers, sisters, and siblings. And we welcome all people across the gender spectrum to worship God. And that God could be he, she, they, them. In spirit, in truth, and in our full authenticity. That's what we do. And that sounds like a lot. It is a lot. It is a lot. The work is as a person of faith, the work is deep and wide and high and broad, just as God is, right? Just as God is. And my main focus is to be there for support. You know, we talk a lot about mind and body. Mind and body. We talk very, very, very little about the trans community's spirit, the spirit of the community. Who is talking to that? Who is speaking to that? So, hopefully, my organizations are small that I'm involved in, but we're big in heart. We're big in heart because that's what it takes. I want to say one last thing. Please, community of faith, stop waiting for us to come to you. Most of the time, we don't know that you are even there. Who are you? Where are you? Come to us. You wanna see who we are, where we are, and how you can help us? Come to a ball. Do it. Come to a ball. Bring your clergy collar with you. Don't come in here being incognito. We want to know who you are. Come to a ball. Come to where we are. Because most of us have so much church hurt and mosque hurt and synagogue hurt and temple hurt. We're not coming to you. We're not going to come because you've already let us know that we're not welcome. You let us know. So come to us. Come unto him, all ye who labor. Come to the community. We need you, especially if you are trans clergy. All right, I'm sorry to point. I'm sorry. I wanted to, Sue, I wanted to take this opportunity to do that, to bring that forward, right? Because we sit and we have the niceties. It's like, yes, and we're this, and we're God, and we love Jesus, and we love Buddha, we love all the deities, but we are the hands and feet and mouth of those deities. And if we got to be out there. We got to get out there. Okay, I'm coming off my pedestal now.
Thank you so much, Rev. I appreciate that. I'm going to go over to Nala. Now, tell us about your organization, what you do, a little bit about your mission.
Thank you so much, Dr. Elijah. Once again, Nala Simone Toussaint. As I share, I'm trying to move through this perpetual experience of grief and mourning. It is something too familiar as a Black trans woman navigating not just America, but this global oppression and, quite honest, genocide. And so while I'm being called and asked to share, I am moving through the emotional state. I am being with what has been shared. I am feeling those who are not mentioned, even in that video. There are so many spaces, faces, and souls that I have known in the work of serving this years that have not made it to news media, where mothers and parents and guardians, whether given or birthed through, are mourning and not being held. So my work, my response through Road has literally emerged for the urgent needs of spaces dedicated to envisioning and building a world of sustainability and whatever that may look like. Abundance and justice for all transgender, non-binary, same gender loving individual, gender expansive individuals of African descent. The core mission has always been to foster, safeguard, sustainability again, and healing, and ignite the resilience of Black trans, lesbians, gay, bi. It's important that for me, the work is not just rooted in trans, but also what has been birthed out of the gender expansive, the ability, the capacity to love. Trans people are so sacred that they teach us ability and access to permission that the world constantly denies. We give folks permission to express something beyond our understanding. And so the goal has often been to empowering to transcend outside of the oppressive colonization structures that exist, and to really seek to sever the deep connections between us, not even just between us, but in our bodies, our families, and also our land. And this commitment has propelled the work that I have done, not just locally, nationally, and also global. Most of the work that Road has been able to do since launching in 2020 has been urgent response to COVID-19. What is not said is currently, there are things that are being highlighted in Palestine and Israel, but I really want to focus as well on the genocide that's happening in the Congo. There are several trans women that I work with, And they have already been dealing with a lot of oppression post an earthquake, if you all remember, that happened just a few years ago during a pandemic, where they had lost everything. And so Road has been able to, with the lack of resources, but the ability to make connection, to utilize those connections to give resources, whether it's, Reverend Yunus has came and held space for our East African cohort just by doing breathing practices. What we forget is that there is power in movement. There's something, the word movement is not just a state of being, it's not just morbid, but there's something that happens with the body when we move through the grief. There's something that happens when we allow ourselves to move in it. And so this work has been a movement, not just the movement of marching, not just the movement, but to move bodies and spirits back to ourselves after we are sometimes disattached. I can say there are many times in this work that I just get numb as a trauma response to be able to show up to my commitments and my yes. And in that numbness, it robs me of the opportunity to release in the movement. So while I am in service, I don't allow myself to move through it with the folks because I am got to get this done, this got to, and then this happened. And so through our programs, we've been able to not only serve, but it's also been a gift to me. It's been a gift to me to have Artivism Fellowship mixing art and activism together to create a story, to allow us to eliminate isolations, to rewrite our narrative, to tell our own stories, while also offering political education. And, Tahtianna, you were sharing about, being a Haitian and Dominican, and I'm first generation American from two Caribbean parents. My dad being from Trinidad and my mom being from Jamaica. So there is a familiarity in the DNA of movement. There's a familiarity of fleeing from countries for a better. And so I say that to say that the Black trans experience is not far from the Black experience. It's not far from the experience of marginalization. It is not far from the need of finding something better and choosing movement, making a choice in the fear, making a choice in the emergency, the absence of choice. Emergency is the absence of choice. We do not get to choose. And so for often while we're in this space, recognizing trans folks do not get to choose often. And when we do make a choice and we're in space, we're reminded of who we are. And so there's something so sacred. And I'll share a little bit more about Road, that it really is just an interruption of genocide. And our work focuses currently on the East African region, particularly in Kenya, Nairobi, in Uganda, particularly in Kampala. We also have recently extended it to Nigeria. We have been working with some of the girls in Haiti who make wonderful, beautiful shoes and baskets to sustain themselves. We've also been able to serve in Guyana. Was also able to service in Barbados, and we've also been able to service in St. Lucia. And it's been a war cry, and it's been challenging because, like Tahtianna said, there is a lack of resources. And folks are giving and giving, particularly I recognize Black and trans and queer folks are giving. But what we're not having a conversation is that we're sharing the same $20. But we're not talking about how most of us is already at capacity. We're already challenged with the mental health that we are experiencing from the constant oppression. And so what I identify, while there's a calling for folks to show up, we have yet to even talk about rest because we're actively not given the permission to rest. And when we take it, we feel guilty. And so now we're in mental torment about why we took rest. And so there's a cycle and this perpetual lack of health and holistic wellness for our being. And so I know I said a lot, but when I think about Road and just knowing that reuniting of African descendants in the name and recognize Road, that all road leads back to home, that home is always in the body because we've had to find that back within ourselves.
Wow, thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you for the work that you do. For me, and I'm coming up to you next, Dr. Lulu. For me, as a retired military veteran who has been to Uganda on mission, doing mission projects several times, I'm actually happy to hear that you're in those spaces, because for me, as a retired military person, when I hear all of the things going on around the world, I won't point to any particular space. It's painful for me to know that these things are happening to our siblings in the African continent, and there is no discussion, no attention. And we know what it gets down to is capitalism and the dollar bill, right? So thank you so much for sharing that and for the work you do. And I would love to talk to you more about Uganda. Um, Dr. Lulu, welcome. Tell
Hello,
us about
friend. How
your
are you?
well. I'm amazing. It's good to see you in this space,
Yeah,
and I look forward to seeing you very soon, physically
yeah,
in space.
yeah.
How you feeling? What you do? Tell
I,
us. Tell us. Give us the parent perspective, please.
I mean, I'm doing okay. I'm doing as good as I can. I'm not doing better than anybody else. I'm not doing worse. We're just all going together, numb as fuck. I don't know if it's a explicit room or not, but oh well. My name is Dr. Lulu, life coach. I am a retired pediatrician, or am I even a retired? I don't know what I am, but I'm here in the space because I'm a mama bear, and I don't know the wildest bear out there. I'm wilder than that bear in the space that I occupy as a parent of a Black transgender woman who is the cat's meow, just as docile as ever. And I was like, Mom, you don't have to do this, right? I'm like, yes, I know I don't have to, but I'm doing it. There's a reason why God gave you the mother that God gave to you, which just happens to be me. And yes, thank you for saying Nigeria. Thank you for mentioning, just any African countries at all. I think people often forget that there are Africans who are trans. Every time I say I'm Nigerian, the Nigerians look at me like I have seven heads. They're like, wait, Nigerian people are trans is what they ask me. Wait, in Nigeria? Wait, you mean a Nigerian? Any variation of that question. I accidentally came into this advocacy and activism as a parent of a trans child. I say accident because I had no idea my kid was trans, in as much as I was the number one parent saying, stop acting like a girl nonstop. And she would always say, but Mom, how do girls act? I'm like, the way you act, that's how girls act. You're not a girl. That was me. I was that parent. Even as I was married to my ex-wife, when we heard about non-binary, we're like, wait, I was like, what's non-binary? She was like, I don't know. That's your kid. I'm like, I don't know. You're gay. What's non-binary? So we didn't know what that was. And then in rapid succession, it went from non-binary to trans. And then I was just faced with this world where I am literally today the only advocate in her lineage. Her father passed away in June, ex-father passed away in June without reconciling. My parents won't ask me about her when they ask me about all the kids. So now I ask them to stop asking me about the kids because I have three children. So if you're not going to ask me about all my kids, then don't ask me about my kids. Don't ask me about how I'm doing. Just don't. And so I have become as self-isolated from the family because I have to go with my kid. But something that someone said here earlier about the people that are not mentioned. I have my youngest child is my muse. And my youngest child is not trans. My youngest child, or that we know of, but my youngest child said to me one day, say, you know what, Mom? I went from having a big brother to having a big sister, right? I said, yes. And he said, well, Mom, no one talks about that. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, you're right. No one talks about the fact that when the child is transitioning, their parent is transitioning. When the child is transitioning, their siblings are transitioning. When the child is killed, their siblings just lost a sibling. I mean, this is a real story. My child's siblings' lives matter. Their stories matter. As the parent, I have to carry that with me. And I used to tell God all the time, why me? Why me? And then I heard very loudly, why not you? If not you, then who? Who is the mom who is a pediatrician, who is an immigrant, who is queer, who is a physician, who will do the work? Who will? And so I started reconciling with that. And so my message, usually as a parents coach to the parents, is the person that needs to be accepted is you. And then you can affirm your kid. You don't have to accept your child. If your child accepts themselves, that's enough for me. You need to accept your identity as a parent of a trans child, as a parent of a queer child. And maybe, just maybe, your child's life will now be the mirror through which you look at your own life as maybe even a queer person, maybe even a trans person, who knows? As we know, these things are never in isolation. They run in families, whether you like it or not. It is what it is. And so thank you for holding space for me. Thank you for telling me about it as someone who has fibromyalgia as a diagnosis, because that's what I say. Because people are like, wait, you have fibromyalgia? Yes. And they're like, oh, you don't act like one. What's the act? So now I become my child. What is the act? I'm not going to be, oh, woe is me. No, I've got too much work to do to even admit that that's a thing. But I do know what triggers me. So I try to avoid things like that. I try to avoid talks of war. I try to avoid the things that I know trigger me. So with all the love in my heart, I want to open this practice in Georgia, in Atlanta, in a few weeks, where I'll be helping parents address the psychosocial aspect of raising a transgender child. And we're starting at the age of 3, because that's when the child is like, Mom, I don't want to wear those shoes. Mom, I don't want to have my hair in pigtails. And you're like, yes, you do. That's what I want to start with. So my big quote, I know Dr. Elijah's quote is, I don't want to change your mind, I want to challenge your thinking. My big quote is, every adult Black trans person was once a Black trans child hiding in plain sight. So I want us to start seeing our kids. We need to see our kids because they're there. So that's kind of all I had for y'all. My friend Joey, who knows Dr. Elijah is here to visit. Man.
Good morning. Good
Of
morning, every
Hello. Welcome to the show.
fabulous siblings.
I just love you, Dr. Lulu. Sue, I told you she's a bundle of joy.
Listen, I see it. I see it.
My kids are really popular. I got one for you, Dr. Elijah. But so Joey, I'm in Arizona, and Joey drove 3 hours to come see me in torrential rain, and happened to come while I was talking. So I was like, Joey, just let me just say hello, and I promise you, I'll give you a big hug, and then I'll send you on your way. So I want to just say before I leave, because I do have to catch a flight in an hour and a half, that thank you so much. Bless you. Thank you for doing this work. May you never tire. May you never tire doing the work. May you never be exhausted. May you never be overwhelmed. May you always find strength within. May you always find love unconditionally and abundantly wherever you are. If you're trans, I want you to just love yourself today, even if nobody loves you, and know that
Yes.
there are people like me who are your parents. As a pediatrician, I became a grand doctor because my own patients brought their kids to me, and I became their doctor. So I can be your mother. I have enough love. We all have enough love. And I think that's all I can say. I'm just really overwhelmed right now. I'm seeing Joey after so many months, and then having to be in this space. I'm sorry. I just cannot. I try to put a brave face, but I just can't do it right this moment. So thank you all so much for everything.
Thank you, Dr. Lulu. We love you too.
Thank you,
And thank you
Dr.
for the
Lulu.
work that you do. Safe
Bubble.
travels.
Thank you.
And I'll see you soon here in the ATL.
Bye.
Bless you,
So I'm
Dr.
going to turn
Lulu.
it over to you, Sue.
Yes, yes. Oh, I'm so appreciative of all that we have heard already. And Dr. Lulu kind of leads into the next question. Travel safely, Dr. Lulu. We will talk. We will talk. We will talk. Dr. Lulu kind of leads into this next question that I have for our panelists. We know that something led you to the work that you're doing. We've heard a lot about the statistics, about the challenges, about what's happening to our Black trans siblings. but there's a personal journey that informs the work that you're doing. So could you tell us a little bit about how your personal journey informs how you show up as a leader in this space? And we will begin with Reverend Yunus, then Nala, then Tahtianna.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to take a second here. To hear someone say that they would be your mother. My mother left this earth a few years ago and had not accepted me at all. And it's the same feeling that I know other people have when I say to them, I'll be your pop. You need a pop? I'll be your pop. And I never made the connection of why that is so means so much to some people until just now. I mean, you know that it means something, you know it, but there's something about the way she said that makes me understand it even deeper, because most people in community know me as Pop. They know I'm a reverend, they know I'm a pastor, they know all that, but I was like, just call me Pop, just do that. And there is a spark, there is a look in the eye that I can't get enough of. How about that? I can't get enough of it. It's like, come here, honey, just give me a hug. I'm your pop. I'll be your pop. And if Nala doesn't mind me saying so, I'm Nala's pop. Right? I'm anybody's pop that need a pop. How about that? How about that? Male, don't matter. I'm your pop. I'll be your pop. Just be ready now. If you know that I'm your pop, be ready that I'm going to be that. I take that very seriously. I'm not joking when I say it. But anyway, that just touched me very deeply. So my journey, I'll keep it brief because I'm a preacher. I can talk. My journey actually began in my 50s. I transitioned in my 50s, which lately hasn't. I found out that's not unheard of, but it's still kind of rare anyway. To be 50 something years old and decide to transition. I did take some time in figuring it out. But where it began was I was at a conference for TFAM, and I was sitting at a table with predominantly trans people, and there was something about being amongst like-spirited, like authenticity people, that it was like a light bulb had went off in my head that said, this is what you've been looking for 90% of your life, and you couldn't put a name on it. You didn't know what it was, but here it is right in front of you. And I was talking to someone, I was speaking with them, and a year or so later, they looked at me and said, I saw the light bulb go off. I saw it go off. And it was like, this is what this has been. And almost in the same second, in the same breath, I realized that there was my ministry. There was my ministry. I was to be a minister to this community in particular. I'm a minister, I'm a pastor to everybody. I'm a minister to anybody that needs me. You need me, I'm there. I don't care what part of the alphabet you belong to, right? However, our community was thirsting. And that moment gave me the opportunity to know you are trans. It don't matter that you're 50. This community needs you. Jump in. And I jumped in. I took a little bit, I did some research. I wanted to know what I was getting into. Okay. Listen, I tell every trans person that is early trans, do your research. Don't just walk out. Just because somebody say you should do something, don't go that route. Do your research. I did my research. I made sure that at 50, my transition, what that was going to look like for me physically, mentally, spiritually, What was that going to be for me? And once I did all that research, and it was like, I took 2 years. From the moment the light bulb went off, I took 2 years. I wanted to know what transition was going to be like for me physically. 50 something years old. What is testosterone going to do to my body, my mind, all of that. I needed to know. Do your research so that this way you understand. Don't go blindly into anything, right? And then from there, I got my ordination as an interfaith minister. I did not want to be just a Christian minister. I wanted to be able to be a minister to people of all faiths and have knowledge about it, not just walk in saying, yeah, God loves everybody. No, you got to be a little bit more specific with some people. You got to know a little bit about what you talk about. Can't be just saying, okay, well, which God we talking about? Okay, so you got to have some, a little bit of knowledge, enough knowledge to be able to do that. And in doing all of this, my own spirituality has grown and blossomed in a way that I never, ever thought would happen. And on top of it, it has spiced up my whole, gender identity. It keeps adding and adding and adding. And as it adds, I pour back out. And guess what? God won't leave me alone. Won't leave me alone, not for 1 second. Get up, child. I got work for you to do. There's a Black Trans Liberation Kitchen full of homeless or children that need you to come in and just be there. Get up. I get up and I go. But the wonderful thing about it is that I receive so much. I receive so much. I see God in each one of those people. I may not remember their name. I know their face and I know their heart and I know their spirit. I didn't think I was going to get this emotional, but I can't help it. I can't help it. And that's where it began. It began with just sitting at a table of people who I realized were me. And I was them.
Thank you so much, Yunus. Thank you. Nala.
Thank you, Pops, just for the invitation. One of the greatest things that I love is that when Pops and I get to share space, and we've had a journey, just like any parent and child, we've had a journey. And in the moments that I've gotten to hear his story, there's always something new. And I'm grateful for the ability to have that intergenerational experience where I can learn someone else's story. Segue into mine's. This journey has not been easy. The discovery or the permission, I would say, to my yes, to being who I am, has been one of not having a language when language was there. What do I mean by that? As a child, I just knew that there was something that was happening internally and externally, and I didn't have the language, but there was language for it. I was communicating my differences and what I felt, and yes, everyone around me was saying, stop being this way, be this way. And then when I got to have consciousness and understanding of words, the only thing that I could see was on media. And Jerry Springer was one, and Maury Povert was another example, and none of those connected to my vibration of identity, of self-proclamation, like who I would be and how I would become in the world. And it wasn't until I was in college. There was this tall, beautiful, chocolate brown sister, and she just walked in the room my first day of college at FIT, and we was in the sewing room for folks who had not been able to afford things. And yes, as I talk, you hear many of my other lived experience and hat that I have worn on the journey of this thing called life. And it was seeing her, I didn't know what it was about her, but there was a tatter in my heart, like you know, when you find someone that you got a crush on, but you don't know, but there was just something that was tattering in my heart about this person that I had questions. Yet I didn't feel like I had permission to ask questions so freely. And so it was in those experiences, I'm like, oh, something is happening for me. And when I got to spend more intimate time as she coached me through like sewing some things and helping, I got to know that Elsie was a Black trans woman from Alabama in 2000. And so I'm going to give you a time period, 2008. So that gives you the context of where we were in 2008 to now. And it was in that journey that 2 years later, I got access to care and be able to be on my journey. And the knowledge and the work and the fire that burns in my stomach wasn't until 2013 when a trans sibling that I shared space with in support group for Black trans women or trans people in color was murdered. And I bring her name into space, Isla Nettles. And it was in that quick realization as I journeyed in 2011, 10 of my transition. So we're like a decade in now. I just knew that my yes and my permission was something that I had to hold sacred like a bird in a cage. It just felt that I was free, yet I was still caged. And it wasn't until I met other trans siblings at Colin Lord, which I must share. I am not at Colin Lord, and thank God for the permission to be patient to work there. But I have transitioned since March 17, 2003, and now the director at Marsha P. Johnson while running my organization. It wasn't until I met trans women in a collective who had an urgent response to the violence of Isla Nettles that I found myself in some names that I can live in the spaces. Asha Lyons, Maya Lalani Vasquez, Loris Ashley Hunter, Coco Jones, Daniela Carter, Janet Mock, Laverne Cox, Coco Ma, and so many more, Octavia Lewis. It was in that center the cage door opened because I wasn't by myself anymore. It was like another birds that came together to open the door, so you don't have to hold this space of being caged. We can fly together. And so that's what we did. We journeyed to other states to teach. We journeyed to other places to share our stories where our stories could be heard, not realizing the movement that was happening in that response. You don't know what allowing yourself and giving yourself permission to fly with others, what it would look like. And sometimes birds go separate ways, right? Ashe. And in that ashe, but in the process, God made it so that I got what I needed. God made it so that as I journey with those, that I learned not only my story and the permission to tell my story, but I also got to learn the stories that was unheard, their beginnings, their lack thereof. And so I did not take those stories for granted. I did not take those experiences for granted. I let it fuel how I would approach and handle people. It gave me a deeper capacity to expand the ways that I love. And I've gotten it wrong so many times. Thank God for grace and mercy. And it is because those experiences that I don't just show up as Nala, I show up with the 200s and the 2000s and the 2 millions and the world. I let it channel me in a way that I pray that if I am taking sooner than the time, that at least I have left something on the soil that has been fertile.
Thank you, Nala. Woo. Tahtianna.
Oh, I didn't know I had control to unmute myself. I was like, well, I waited for you to unmute me. Sorry, I had to get off earlier because I lost audio and I didn't know what was going on. So I got off and jumped back on and thank God it got fixed. So I want to talk about, well, pretty much the question was what brought us to the work that we're doing, right? Our personal journey.
Yes.
So I want to speak on 5 individuals that I feel shaped, well, I know shaped me to be who I am today. And I'm saying in order. My mom, my dad, Tracy Bumpus, who was a transgender woman from the community who is no longer here with us today, my husband, and then a dear friend of mine, Queen Jane. Um, and it's in order. So, and I'll go by the order. I was always rebellious as a kid. I think we all are. And what happens is that first time that we do something that others don't agree with, they dim that light, right? They either you're scolded or you're punished or sometimes beat, who knows, whatever goes on, and from that moment, your light starts to dim a little. With me, it was a little different. I feel that I was always rebellious and always doing things that I deserved beatings for. I can say that. Um, but the one thing that I thought that I was truly gonna get the biggest ass whooping of my life was what started to help shape who I am today. My grandfather, may his soul rest in peace, was a priest and he was a pastor and had his own church and lived in Terrytown, New York. I was over my my grandparents' house. I forget exactly the details of that day, but my mom, and along with her sister and a couple of other people, the family members had went somewhere, and all of the cousins we pretty much stood with our grandparents. So we was ripping and running, having fun like kids, the usual. But of course, you already know for people like me, when we are young, unfortunately, we don't look quite like manly boys, right? We're always getting told, stop acting like a girl. Stop being a girl. Stop being this, stop being that. And this day, it was one of those incidents where I don't know what it was that I was doing that my grandfather felt that it was too girly. And he actually went to the extension of saying the F word and calling me the F word. I immediately responded back. It was something like, yeah, whatever. I could be that, but you say that you're a man of God and you're nothing but the devil. I said something like that, and he almost caught like a heart attack right there. That so I was like, oh my god, like I done said the wrong thing. Like, oh my god, I'm really gonna get an ass beaten tonight. And and all my cousins is teasing me like, oh, wait till your mama get back, wait till your daddy get back. So I'm already like, for sure, it's going down today. I'm definitely gonna wake up with a sore butt tomorrow. Um, it wasn't like that. My mom actually, I overheard her speaking with my grandfather, and she was actually like not arguing with him, but combating with him and telling him like, but yeah, obviously they were referring to me as he at the time, and she was like, yeah, but you called him, the F word, you don't do that or whatever, blah blah, and that inspired me to hear my mom stick up for me, and it was just like, oh, okay, like. Let nobody call me that word again. My mom was backing me up, So I feel like that was the start of me speaking up for myself, kind of like standing in my truth and peacefully walking in my truth. My father, I remember there was another incident where my younger sister was getting bullied by somebody, and I came out as her older brother at the time, and I was actually babysitting her, and I went to a little crazy. I grabbed a hammer and went to the next door neighbor. This was a grown ass man, so I felt like me at the age of 12, I couldn't do anything. But I was like, if you ever touch my sister again and disrespect my sister, and I went crazy, right? Of course, I thought I was gonna get a beating that day too, and over here, my father, speaking to my mother about it, saying like, oh, we gotta make sure that they're not doing this all the time. But I love the fact that again, they was referring to me as he at the time, that he spoke up for himself and that he was not going to let nobody do anything, blah blah blah. That again inspired me to walk in my truth, to say that I don't care who you are, whether you're adult or not, you're not going to disrespect me. You're gonna respect me, and I'm gonna respect you. If you want respect, you're gonna respect me too. And that was the beginning of me walking in my truth. Later on down in life, as I got older and started working for Housing Works Incorporation at the time, I Tracy Bumpus was one of the true inspires of of Housing Works Incorporation. And I remember sitting at I think it was TCHP program at the time, and JB, the JTP. It was a job training program, and she's giving me insight, and we're going over. I forget what I wrote. I think it was on one HIV 101. I pretty much wrote about the history of HIV, and she comes to me and she's like, "Girl, we all know about HIV. Ain't you trans? Why ain't you talking about your trans sisters?" And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, I don't really know what to say. I went back home and started dwelling on what she said. One of the things that stood out, she said, whenever you have the opportunity to speak on your community, speak on your sisters. No one is speaking on your sisters. There will be nobody speaking on your sisters. People like you that are privileged, that are in spaces that can be heard, need to speak up for your sisters because no one is going to get us out the hall. And that stuck with me. I went home, and I remember she was reading the presentation like to go over it because I was literally presented it the very next day. Um, I went home. It was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. When I tell you I stood up till like 2 o'clock in the morning, you just redid that whole presentation and spoke about the sex workers in Hawaii and the transgender woman. Look, I got goosebumps right now as I'm saying it. And I walked into class and I'm getting emotional. And spoke about the sex workers in Hawaii. And I got a standing ovation. My professor was amazed. She of course was happy for me, and from that moment on, always, kind of pushed me. Oh, it was always nugging me to step it and to go a step higher and to not shallow in my own disbelief. And I took heed to that. Of course, later on down in life, that's the third person I spoke with, right? My husband, Lawrence Carroll. You know, leaving New York, obviously, I was a former sex worker, addicted to drugs, living the life. And thankfully, for the man that I'm married with now, we both worked on changing that lifestyle and just, helping, inspiring me to believe in me, to believe in love, to allow that love to flourish us, to, bigger greetings and whatnot. We moved. I left New York. Sometimes people, places, and things means a whole different state. And we got up, we got up and said, F the five boroughs. Let's go to a different state and let's start new. Um, and we did that. We did just that. However, nonprofit work wasn't in nowhere in my plans. Just anything that I'm doing now was nowhere near in my plan. So I just figured like, okay, we're moving, we're getting up out of here, we're going to a different state. We're gonna work on your career. He's a truck driver, and we was lucky. We had gotten a nice little lump sum, was able to buy our own place. So life was kind of like starting up for me as the way I'm seeing it in my eyes, starting up for me again. I'm leaving, and then boom comes George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and through the midst of all that, right? We would like the depression started. It was like, oh my God, I couldn't even believe. I'm like, I finally get a break in life, finally get some money in my pocket, finally get to move, and now we're like all in this state of mind, depressed and COVID, and now we're scared we're gonna die. I'm like, oh my God, like I literally did not think I would be sitting here today speaking. I thought COVID was definitely gonna take me out. Um, it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming. And sitting and realizing that my privilege, it was something that was allowing me to sit in places that others wasn't able to sit in. My privilege was allowing me to have conversations that others couldn't have. My privilege was allowing me to help change policies in schools that others probably couldn't even fathom to even sit at a board table. Immediately, I said, this is it. I seen the whole world we was all at one, right? Like, oh, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, but the trans community was still in the back. Like, hello, my black ass matters too. And no one was doing anything. Thanks for Joella from the Stonewall movement, who started the Stonewall movement, and Queen Jean, who eventually continued. We galvanized and met up like every week and marched and marched and marched for that whole year, and we created history with that. That was the very thing that ignited that fire within me again. Um, Using the little bit that I did know about nonprofit organization and helping them to kind of like reshape their plans for the future and what they wanted to do. And of course, like Nala said, things happen. You know, flocks. All birds don't flock together. All birds of the same feather don't flock together. You know, people start to separate and create their own, which is also amazing because we're all powerful in many different ways and we're all needed in every area of this world doing the work. That was what ignited my fire and had me feeling like, you know what? I got to start a nonprofit organization, one that's going to center the lives of Black trans women, one that's going to center the lives of Black trans sex workers. I feel like 9 times out of 10, what happens with our community is that we all fall under one criteria. We all fall under the same umbrella, the LGBTQ. And the T in that alphabet gets the short end of the stick 9 times out of 10 because we're dealing with organizations that aren't catering to the lives of these women. Not to say that they're purposely right not catering to them, but we have these nonprofit organizations that sometimes are open just from the hours of 9 to 5. Unfortunately, those are the hours that the girls are getting back home to sleep and rest, to have to come back out and survive again. So meeting them where they're at, helping them where they're at is 9 times the answer, the key. And that's what inspired me to do the work that I'm doing today. I never thought in my life that I was going to be able to proudly say I'm a former sex worker and a current phone sex operator. um, I never thought that I would be, rallying behind this movement and actually galvanizing and, creating the sex workers policy. But it's needed. No one else is going to stand up for us unless we are. So the people that are privileged, the people that has that privilege, stand up, sit at these tables, take a seat, invite yourself to the table. Sometimes we often always wait for others to invite us. Invite yourself to the table, and stick with it.
Whew. This is amazing. Thank you so much, all of you, for sharing your powerful personal journeys with us and for helping us to kind of be on the inside of what inspired you to do this amazing work that you were doing. All of you who are watching, thank you again for joining us. You are watching Inspires Black and Trans in America and Beyond, and we are so honored to have Dr. Elijah Nicholas, to have Nala Toussaint, to have Tahtianna Fermin and Reverend Yunus Coldman with us for our discussion today. I do hope that you are enjoying it. I hope that you shared it. And if you have any questions at all for our panelists, please feel free to post them. Once again, we are doing a giveaway for a tumbler for all Black Trans Lives Matter tumbler. It will look a little something like this. It will look a little something like this. But this fist will be will be in the trans colors, and we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to win one. So put hashtag inspire for your chance to win a tumbler today. I'm going to pass it back over to Dr. Elijah.
Wow, I can't believe like our time is almost up here.
I know.
First of all. Second of all, Sue, I was gonna ask, maybe we should change the request for that tumbler because I like what Tahtianna said. But my black beak matters. Can we put that on the cup? Just kidding. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. But no, for real, I like that. Like
you can get it customized.
And that, as we begin to wrap up here, that's kind of where I would love to shift the conversation just a bit and speak about, one of the reasons I said at the beginning, the cup, all Black trans lives matter, is because of all of the things that we've talked about here. And, Tahtianna, you mentioned the, when George Floyd happened and then everything like took a turn and the pandemic happened and, life happened. And so I would love to hear everyone's thoughts on the question or the statement of being Black and trans, specifically in America, during this time, because there are challenges that we have as Black trans individuals, depending on how you look at it, as trans Black individuals, and how and where and when we show up in the world. And, so I would just love for us to have a brief conversation about, what it's like. Not necessarily what it's like, because we've shared what it's like to be Black and trans, and the experiences that we've had, but maybe from a solution perspective, how do we get beyond, how do we address the healing that needs to take place at large in the Black community? Because I heard something very poignant, that Angelica Ross said yesterday in the video that she posted, and she talked about how for many of us as Black trans and non-binary folks, our first point of love is our family or in our Black community, right? And that also for many of us becomes our first point of fear, right? And our first point of you know uh, uh, terror for many folks, right? And so what are you all's thoughts on how we get beyond that? And what's your perspective? Because I was at the Black Lives Matters march with my this is what trans looks like, and I got a lot of stares, and I wasn't quite comfortable. So I'd love to know your thoughts on that. Let's start with you, Red.
That's a deep question. It's I think the approaches for me are dependent upon where I am, what room I'm in, what people I'm around. There's no cookie cutter solution to any of this, unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
because we're not cookie cutter people, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are all individual, different, all of that, size, shape, color, all of that, and unfortunately, we are subject to all the trauma that comes with being Black and being tall, being skinny, liking opera and not liking Gladys Knight. Um, there's so, and I say that for a reason. It's so convoluted, right?
Mm-hmm.
That there is no one solution to it. I think what we need to do is keep chopping it
Mm-hmm.
down. And if it grows back up, get that in its weed stage. Once we get that big tree down, not to rest on our laurels about any of it. And the reason why I talk about the the opera singer and Gladys Knight. So when in my youth, I was an opera singer,
Mm.
right? And I was good. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I was really, really good. I did it for 10 years. But it was so funny because Black people would say, "Well, why are you singing that stuff? Why are you singing that? You don't know no Gladys Knight?" It's like, no, I don't know. I can't sing like Gladys Knight. I don't have that kind of voice. It's that kind of stuff. Growing up, not being quite light enough and not being quite dark enough during a time when Black Power was coming out, and everybody
Mm-hmm.
was rah, 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 Angela Davis and Huey P. Newton and all those people, and not quite fitting in quite enough. So it's a lot. In my
Sure.
family. In my
Mm-hmm.
family, I was always the odd bird, always different.
Mm-hmm.
In some way or another. My mother used to just look at me sometimes like, "What is up with this child?"
Mm-hmm.
Not being able to define it. So I don't know if I'm answering the question, but there's no one way of addressing all of it. We have to
Okay.
take it one thing at a time. And when
Absolutely.
you address that one thing, you have to also know you might have to look back and say that sprout is back. It's growing again. Let's take just like the 500 and some odd bills that are coming up
Right.
next year in 2024. Some of those things, if we actually look at some of those bills, they were once anti-Black,
Yes.
right? They're anti-body autonomy, right? That's a Black
Mm-hmm.
issue, but
Mm-hmm.
we're not
Mm-hmm.
looking at it that way. We're looking at it's them trans people. Yeah,
Right.
they don't need none of this, but they don't. What's not understood is that the more they keep taking our rights, our things away, you're next.
Right.
Don't think that
Right.
you're not on the list. You may
It's
not be up
definitely a
as
list.
high. You may not be up as high on the list as you once were,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because let's think about how Black cis women were treated in the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
right? We have to think about that. It's the same thing. All they keep recycling it.
Yeah.
Recycling. So we chopped that tree down, but that sprout is back, right? That little
Absolutely.
sprout, and now them sprouts are 500 and some odd sprouts,
Right.
right? So now
Right.
we got to go back and weed and pull that all out. Get out there and vote. Get out there and do what needs to be done. And yes, you may have fear about doing it, but walk in with your fear. Use that. I use that as energy, honey. If I'm a little bit shaking and quaking, I'm gonna use that as energy. I'm gonna rev that up, and we're gonna get some
Absolutely.
work done. We're gonna get some work done. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I want to, if it's okay, Sue, I want to build on that and go to Nala actually. And if you could talk about, so Rev just mentioned back what it was like back in the 70s. So if we think 100 years ago, right? And we think where African Americans were 100 years ago. We take today and where we see the bills that Rev just mentioned and where we are today. And so we as Black trans leaders are really at the forefront and in the process of and the center of change and setting the stage for change that will be referenced 100 years from now. So my question to you, Nala, is what do you see 100, and I know this is a futuristic question, but what do you anticipate based on what Rhodes does? What do you anticipate from 100 years from now? What will we be talking about? Because they will be referencing this movement that we are actively in right now. So what do you anticipate on that? And go ahead and say what you were getting ready to say, please.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. So in my response to that, I'm going to tie in what I was going to say into the future as well. So in recognizing our community does face a multitude of critical challenges, which is deeply rooted in systematic issues, right? And so we have to understand that everything is still connected in a systematic structure. So when we look in the global South, particularly if we're thinking of East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, West Africa, Nigeria, and the Caribbean, for example, Jamaica, Haiti, Ghana, there's a great grieve of human rights crisis that is unfolding.
Mm-hmm.
Human rights crisis that's unfolding, right? And those crises then mirrors itself in the global north, like notable, right? The United States, where there is like alarming amount of 500 anti-trans legislation that places rights and safety for trans and queer individuals. So if we break that down, we're looking at systematic marginalization and exclusion.
Mm-hmm.
So our community has to confront systematic barriers that restrict access to fundamental resources, which include healthcare, education, housing, and employment opportunities, looking at that ecosystem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to look at 100 years, it is my hope that Rhodes has done enough to have called in from the highest, the folks who wear the crown currently, that the UN is addressing those policies and being intentional, where the trans folks that are in Kenya, not throwing shade, but throwing shade, who are in those refugees camps are not experiencing abuse from the folks who are protecting them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It is in
absolutely.
the understanding of systematic breakdown that we look at violence and discrimination, where many within our community endure an elevated level of violence, discrimination, and hate crimes, both within local communities and broader scales, right? So if we're looking 100 years, we're having a restorative justice conversation about what violence looks like in the forms. We're not just talking about the physical violence, the mental violence,
Mental.
partner violence, the lack thereof understanding of how did we get here and how do we reconcile with the things that are so deeply rooted in our pain and so deeply rooted in our lack thereof capacity, and how we don't often have the permission to increase our capacity. And if we look at the lack of legal protections, then we're looking at the legal frameworks. We're often looking at what has failed, the inadequacy to protect the rights and the well-being of transgender people and queer people, in the intersection of Blackness, in the intersection of Indigenous people, in the intersection of people of color, rendering all of us to be vulnerable in various forms of discrimination. So if there ain't no policy on paper that could protect me, I'm already vulnerable. Ain't nothing on paper to protect me. If somebody punched me in my face, well, you got punched because of what you look like. You look like a sissy. Saying it just how it's been said.
Right.
There is no accountability, is what I'm saying. Accountability. So 100 years from now, we're looking at accountability conversations.
Still. Yes.
And if we're looking at mental health and well-being, as I've been really anchored around, is that the compounded challenges of our identity, discrimination, and social exclusion has increased our rate of mental health issues.
Yes.
We're talking about isolation. Folks literally struggle with leaving out their house. There's a breakdown that happens once we touch the door. There's a breakdown once my eyes open and I may have to say, damn, I lived another day. I thought I was going to go. I'm hoping to leave what this thing of reality is called for me right now. Hoping that at least I'll go in a way in my sleep than someone taking my life. Maybe the stress will kill me first. I want to like really bring folks into understanding. So 100 years from now, there's a thing called rest and reciprocity. There's a thing called restorative. There's a thing called respite, where the mind is at ease of not having to overproduce in this overwhelming and angst experience of war, destruction, confusion, theology rooted in adding to confusion, the ability to actually have access to interrogate text. And not told to shut your mouth up, right? To really give permission. I'm going to keep going because I need to get it out me, okay?
No, it's good.
And disconnection. When we're thinking about displacement and disconnection, we're looking at anti-trans and anti-queer legislation, right? So when we think about gender-based violence and we think about systematic oppression, it forces many individuals to leave their countries of origin. Now let's highlight that. We got Caribbean trans folks coming to here for asylum. We got folks from Africa we got indigenous coming for asylum, but then we take their labor and offering gifts, and then we say, go back to your country in our policies. It's confusion.
Absolutely.
It's mental torment. So 100 years from now, we're looking at the honoring of the gifts that trans folks from other countries have, where we're not depriving their resources of their country, where we're not blowing things up and justify it in narrative that we're ceasing fire, hear what I said, because we're not contributing to genocide. When we're looking at the economic justice of it all, because money is always rooted into everything, we're looking at economic opportunities, which, as we know it now, are limited to many of our community, leading to financial stability and barriers to access essential resources. So going back to the top of the list, if I ain't got no money or health insurance, I can't have health insurance. If I ain't got no money, I can't get housing. If I ain't got no money, I can't feed myself. And if I ain't got money and I want a leadership development, I can't go to school.
Absolutely.
And my identity prevents the quicker access because there's already a stigma and conversation about who I am and what I have become or what I will be. And then we topple that with healthcare disparity. Well, as we know, transgender folks have had to experience difficulty in accessing that healthcare, leading us to Black market, having to fill ourselves up with things just so we can look passable to open that door. I want to walk you through the experience.
Mhm.
Then we shame folks of why you put that in your body, girl. You don't look good. Then we're trying to walk balls to make money, but there's a lot of shaming, and no one is saying, "Let me help anchor you in your journey." Can I help you anchor you in your journey? I may not have it all, but let me be with you. Let me give you the grace because you might get on my nerve, but let me be with you.
Mhm.
Even if it's from a distance and I have to send you resources, even if it's from, like, really think about the healthcare disparities, lack
Absolutely.
of, lack of representation. Our community is underrepresented in every intersection of the ecosystem. It's not enough that we have Laverne Cox. It's not enough that we have Angelica Ross. We are grateful for this, and yet it's still not enough. There's more.
Still
There's,
not enough.
as Reverend Yunus said, we are not cookie cutter. We're not a monolith. There are so many of us still whose story is untold, that is locked in the throat chakra. You hear what I'm saying? So if we
Mhm.
look at 100 years from now, if we look from 100 years now, that bird is singing. I know why a bird is singing. I know that there's representation. I know that there's people who are sitting in office. I know that they have health access to healthcare. I know that their bank is not just in 60K, but it's double figures, huh? Six figures,
Yes.
huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
And lastly, because we forget this oftentimes, and I'll close with this: environmental justice.
Mm.
Environmental issues are a part of the Black trans experience, believe it or not,
Mhm.
such as pollution, inadequate waste management, disproportionately affect Black neighborhoods,
Yes. Absolutely.
exacerbating our health disparities. So if I'm Black and I'm trans and I'm living in an area, let's point out the Bronx, for example, when we know this has been a lot of things that happen that as produces asthma, when we think about redlining and all those things. If I'm not thinking of those things, then how am I going to think about my trans experience? So I might be on hormones, not realizing that there are other implications of my surrounding, of my environment, that will impact my journey.
Yes.
So all of those things must be considered when we're looking at Black trans folks, then looking at our parents who have to navigate that, looking at the crack cocaine epidemic, looking at the legalization of marijuana, the criminalization of HIV. If we're looking at that, we have to also understand our parents had to exist through that. So of course they don't have the capacity to understand trans. I'm not saying it's not right. I'm saying look from what our reference point and starting point is. And if I'm looking 100 years forward, then I am clear how we got here. I'm clear where I am now, and I can give grace, and that my ancestors can be venerated through me.
That's powerful. That's. Thank you for answering that loaded question, because it definitely was loaded. And I want to. This is my last question soon, and I'm gonna punt it back over to you, if you will. And I just want to build on Reverend Eunice and then Nala's responses, and talk about the ecosystem, and talk about accountability, and talk about movement, and talk about reproductive justice. All of those things, and ask you, Tahtianna, how do we as Black trans leaders, number one, build the bridge so that we can talk with, commune with, fellowship with our Black, I won't use the word cis, but our Black leaders, such as the Urban League, such as the NAACP, such as the Rainbow Coalition, places that have access to, or perceived access to, power and money, that had this very conversation 50 years ago. Not this very conversation, right? But the conversations about the ecosystem, the conversations about reproductive justice, the conversations about social justice. Now, this conversation is the same conversation with trans interjected in there. So how do we build that bridge? And how, and not necessarily how do we get there, but how do we start by building the bridge and having the conversations? And then after you response to, it's on you. That's the final question that I had.
Okay, so I'm gonna be all over the place. That was a lot. Just to piggyback a little bit on what Eunice and Nala was saying, right? Because I feel that intersectionality. intersectionality, right? It's a lot to unpack. It's a lot to unpack, and it's still, still today. I'm still unpacking and learning how to intact my own true beliefs of who I am, standing up for my right, and just identifying as not only black but as an Afro Latina. So that right there alone is a lot. Growing up, I didn't know who the hell I was. I was kind of confused, you know. Like, I'm looking at at my skin color, and I'm like, I'm black, but then I'm in school being made fun of. Um, you know, like, you're not black, you're Spanish, you know. And then I'm going home and I'm asking my mother, like, well, I'm Spanish, but I'm black, right? And they're like, mija, no, you Spanish, girl. Like, you know, I'm like, and I'm like going back to school now. I'm like, you know, confused growing up, right? And then to add on, at the time, you know, I'm trying to identify with who I am as either gay, trans, or where do I fit in this culture, right? And all of that to connect is a lot, right? I think that we see the stupidity all the time on Instagram and Facebook, where we see pictures of like milk and some whatever pig feed. They're like, you're not black if you don't eat this, or you're not black if you have never tasted that. You're not black if you never did, right. We always see the ignorance that people put out there, that unfortunately sometimes tackles us down. Me keeping it on the eye. Um, as a Afro Latina woman, I never really identify, because I'm often left out of spaces that Latin folks are in. I'm often, you know, viewed as someone who thinks she's not Spanish, I guess, because, you know, I identify as Afro Latina, or I'm more connected with my Black culture. Um, I think that the start is definitely holding people accountable, of course, and educating, taking the risk, you know, going that extra mile, to create, you know, platforms like this, you know, panel discussions, you know, inviting people to the table. I was invited when you said NAACP. I was invited to the NAACP last year, received an award, and I sat down and spoke about, you know, Black queerness and sex work. That's something that, you know, years down, you know, they wouldn't have been having this conversation, especially not with a Black trans woman. So those are the moments that you inspire others to step up. Those are the moments that you inspire others to educate themselves, because I think Yunus said that, right? You don't, just because someone tells you something, you don't listen to it. You got to educate yourself, research on it, because there's always something else that you can learn from it and gather enough and actually teach others. So I would say creating spaces, going the extra mile by any means necessary. I say that when I say going the extra mile by any means necessary, I want to bring up a story. When I was in the seventh grade, I had a teacher named Miss Kerlock. Miss Kerlock was Black, and she taught us nothing but Black history. Something that I got goosebumps as I'm saying this, because something that nobody in our school was learning. It was Black history, and we were always failing our ACTs at the end of the year, and all those big tests that they used to give us. We used to always fail them, because none of the questions that she would teach us, which was Black history, was in those tests. I got goosebumps again when I say it, because that lady did not care if we didn't know what the schools was trying to teach us. She cared about us learning the true history. And unfortunately, you know, I think that, you know, when you're dumb, young, and full of, you know what, you don't pay attention, right? You don't pay attention to all these things. It goes into the one ear and out the other. And while this lady was like literally risking her job, risking her life, risking, you know, her seat at the table, teaching us, you know, we wasn't paying attention. I say that it goes both ways. Us as a community have to sit in positions and listen to our Black folks that are trying to teach us. I think that we're so caught up with the system that we learn from white people in school, and we kind of stay with that frame of mind that when someone Black is sitting down teaching you something, regardless of whether it's about nonprofit work or grant writing or whatever it is that they're trying to help you with, it will go in through one ear and out the other. But the minute that a white individual is sitting down at the same table telling them the same thing, now they're taking notes. And I ended with that.
Well, I need to I wanted to just put that in because
too, like
That's funny.
Yes.
Well,
that's for all
It's
of
the
y'all
truth.
because whew, Jesus, and I wish we had more time because I wanted to get into the whole self-care thing. And because I think that's vitally important, so maybe I will just ask one of you. So I will ask Nala, how important is self-care in the work that you're doing, and what are some of the rituals or practices that you employ to prioritize that in your life?
Thank you. The first thing that I think about is awareness that there's a need for self-care. If you pretend not to know that your body is communicating you when it's whispering, you will respond when it screams. And pops know that very well. And so I'm grateful for the accountability. So when you are having call-ins that, hey, you may need to take a rest, and you're like, how am I going to take a rest? All these things got to get done. Who gonna help me? If I don't do it, who? And really the calling is like, well, if you don't do it, who? And if you're not able to do it, then how? So there's
Come on, sis.
awareness that when you are being called in, is that their calling is to then call reinforcements in to say, hey, I want to help you so much, and I am not able to, and I'm really sorry for the impact it will cause. And here's some other resources for you. And in that time of self-care is to turn off the mind, to count backwards, to really figure out the things that has fill you in. If it is movement, if it's getting up and twerking that thing in your kitchen while you cooking something, twerk that thing and move that thing out of you. If it is closing your eyes, close your eyes. If it is about putting music on over your head, do that. If it's drinking tea, do that. If it's, herbal medicines, now there's the limit, hey? Because there's when it helps us and then when it changes us to be someone else. Now y'all know what I'm talking about. Use it to help you, not overtake you. There's a difference.
Yes.
And then the other thing that I would think about is people, places, thing, environment. Change your environment if you have to. Go somewhere where you can be with nature. Hug a tree. Pray into the soil of the tree. Ask for what you need. And I promise you that tree will connect to another tree that go back to your home. It's in journaling. If you are not able to write, speak into your recorder as if you're talking to your good girlfriend, because sometimes you can't tell your good girlfriend about everything because your vulnerability might be your weapon.
Mm-hmm.
And so I say that to say is that sometimes you have to go talk into that recorder like you FaceTiming your good Judy and tell the thing that you can't say. I also believe in therapy. It has been essential. So much that I have been able to invite other friends to do it and loved ones. Sometimes you need someone that don't know you to hear your own patterns and habits so that you can actually choose self-care, because there's a pattern of not choosing self-care. So that's where that awareness comes from. That's what I offer. And drink your tea.
And drink your
Or
tea.
anything else that might help you.
I want to know what you drink, Reverend Yunus.
Oh, do you want to know? I'll tell you. Listen, everybody know I am not ashamed. I like my little bourbon. I am good with my bourbon.
Okay.
I don't do it to excess, but I do it to just enough. But if I could add to a little bit of what Nala was saying, I just got back from vacation. Please, people, don't do what I just did. I went on a cruise, 6 days. Last vacation was almost.
I told him
20. Yes, and Nala, my daughter, was in my tuckus about taking this. She was like, "Get there, just go." And I was like, "I'm going. Don't worry about it. I am going." But my point is that if you have a spiritual practice, do your spiritual practice. Forget about what anybody has told you is wrong, right? You shouldn't be doing that. Whatever it is, do it. Do it. It is so important because all the things Nala spoke about before this, we're in a spirituality desert right now. It's a desert. It's a spiritual desert going on because people feel like there is no place to congregate for us. Right? The word says, fail not to come together. Well, we don't feel like there is any place that we can come together. So guess what I do? I go where they are and we go together that way. Right? Because there may not be a place for us to go all the time. You know, there are places that talk about open and affirming. They're lying. They ain't open and affirming. I'd rather have radical inclusivity. I got that. My church, I'm not, this is not a plug, but it is. Where I practice radical inclusivity at Rivers, okay? But the point is that they'll tell you they're open and affirming, but there's no trans pastor, there's no trans people on their board, there's no trans people in the choir. They're all right with you being there and taking your money. And I'm not just saying churches, mosques, all of them, right? And yes, we have to be careful where we go. We do, because they want to kill us. Truth be told, if they could, they would. If they knew they wouldn't go to jail, they would do it. Let's face it. Okay. However, there are places you can go. If the open and affirming allows you to at least come together in worship, yes, go there. But keep looking. Keep looking, because whatever your spiritual practice, go there. Find it. You need that. It's mind, body, spirit. That's my thing. That everybody got their little taglines. That's mine. Mind, body, spirit, and I put spirit in capital letters because we forget that part of who we are. So find the oasis that's in that desert. Go there. Do what you need to do. Look for me. If you see me, it's a place to come. Right? Make sure you do that, because all the things Nala mentioned was all absolutely wonderful to do. But I took too long for this vacation. Don't do that. Don't do that. I unplugged completely. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, well, Lord, I hope the planet's still there when I get off this boat in the Gulf of Mexico. And guess what? It was all still there. It might have been a little more crumbly, but it was still there. Yes, hug a tree. Do it. Don't let nobody tell you that hugging a tree is wrong. Do it. If that's what you need for you. Okay. Praise your God the way you need to praise God. But come together. Try and come together, though, because there is a difference. There is a difference when you come together as opposed to doing it by yourself. We need each other to congregate. We need each other. You must have that. That's where you know who you are. It's a reflection, right? I'm about to preach, so let me stop. So find your oasis in that spirituality desert that's out there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We are overtime. Tahtianna? Okay, I think we lost Tahtianna's audio. Can we tell the people where to find you? If we want to support. Oh, we can't. Okay. I know Tahtianna. Tahtianna, I know you're trying to speak, honey. Your audio has
So I don't know if you can hear me, but it just sounds like very echoey in the background. What just happened to it?
No, jump out and jump back in. Jump out and jump back in. I want you to tell the people where to find you, okay? So go ahead out and come back in so you can tell folk where to find you. Thank you all. Jesus, this has been so rich. I wish we had another hour, but it is a Saturday, and I know that we all have a bunch of things to do. I just want to say thank you for your yes again. Thank you for agreeing to be on this panel today, for speaking truth to power today. I've just been incredibly blessed, and I know that our audience has been blessed as well. Tahtianna, I didn't want to omit you. So I'm glad that you were able to come back. But I do want. Did you have anything before I ask? Before you tell the people where to find all of you and your websites and stuff like that, did you have anything to add on the self-care aspect?
To self-care, I would just say to spirituality is real. A lot of what Christians has used in their practice, they have took from our ancestors and created it something, and turned ours into something else, calling it wicked or negative. Get in touch with the God inside of you. Listen to the voices in your head. Sometimes it's not schizophrenia. Sometimes that is your inner soul speaking to you. Learn how to weave out the bad voices from the good voices. Get in tune with your chakras. Learn how to unblock them. Learn about your orishas. Pray to your orishas. Connect. Hug a tree. Hug a tree. If you can, walk barefooted at least 20 minutes a day, reconnect, readjust yourself. We are electric beings. We are electric magnetic beings. And we have to learn how to get in tune with it. It is our time to wake up. Our spirits are talking to us. Our spirits' guidance are there for us. We need to believe in them, trust them, and follow our hearts.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Elijah. I know you are my co-host today, but I don't want to leave here without if you want to add to that particular. Oh, we lost him. All right. Technology is doing something today, but
Technology is doing something. Look.
nevertheless, it cooperated for the major part of this panel today. So thank you again, Reverend Yunus. Where can people find you, and how can folks support?
Excuse me. Well, I am happy to announce that I now have an Instagram. Okay, so it only took me 99.9 years to get it going. Right, my bishop and my daughter they conspired to make sure that I was on Instagram, and it is under Rev Yunus Coldman. You can't miss it. Facebook, same thing, Yunus Coldman, Rev Yunus Coldman. And how can they support? I will say this: there's no one speaking for our trans community when it comes to spirituality. No one is there doing the support work that needs to be done. When I say no one, I mean no one that I can call. How about that? So if ever you are doing any panels, workshops, anything like that, please have a spiritual aspect to it. We have to speak to that. We're missing that in our community. It's extremely important. Mind, body, spirit. If not me, someone reach out. There are people there. They might be just a little, not so much DL, but they might be just wanting to do it in their end of the community and not be as public facing as I am. But please, 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 it's extremely important, especially going forward in 2024. Okay, because we need all the help we can get to make sure that we get what we need for the 4 years following.
Thank you so much, Nala. How can we? Where can we find you, or how can we support?
Yes, you can go to the www.theroadproject.org. Please click volunteer. As I said, if you have the capacity, I always want people to check in with your body. If you have the capacity, please do fill out the volunteer form. We will be closing out to 2023 forms shortly and starting 2004. And if you have the capacity and the ability and the sustainability to donate, go ahead and pour into the collection pot, please. Know that every dollar goes into the collection pot right there, to our trans siblings and many that you will not imagine how a dollar stretch in other countries, and also how it also sustained this work. This, as Tahtianna echoed, it literally comes out of our pocket. And I don't want to have to experience being exhausted and deprived the resources that I'm working hard to gain myself. So please support and donate. And I got to say this, I am 501c3. Okay, so your donations are tax exempt. When tax season, you got a lump sum that you want to get rid of. You can give gifts and donation of up to $14,000. Just put that there. Ashe. Thank you.
Ashe. Tahtianna, where can we find you and how can we support?
Okay, so you can find me at www.bridgesforlife.org. That is the word bridges, the number 4, and the word life. I don't know why people, for some reason, think because I'm black that I'm going to spell life like LYFE or or some other stuff. No urban slang. It's literally the dictionary word bridges, the number 4, and the dictionary word life. .org. I strive on keeping our website up to date, like literally up to date. So like all the current information you can find there, how to get to us, the different programs that we have and ways that you can help not only us, but other organizations as well. The way that you can help us is by helping us directly or just helping my community in general. That comes in many shapes or forms. It could be if you are a teacher that could lend your time, teaching and putting us in positions that we probably wouldn't be able to find on our own. It could be monetary, it could be support. I have numerous psychiatrists that connects with me and are available for me to connect with any participant that's in need of it. You know, it could be food. It could be, help comes in many different ways. I want to say a little story about someone who was inspired of the work that we do. And they're not trans or anything like that. They're cisgender people. And from the Dominican Republic, a group of girls was on vacation and somehow I forget the story, but it was stranded. And they had nothing. They had to like stay somewhere pretty much until they was able to get their passport again and be able to travel back to the States. Someone that's connected to my family reached out and allowed them to stay with them for the whole week until they got their stuff together, get back home. And they was like so happy to call me and tell me about it. Like, oh my God, I helped 4 transgender girls and blah, blah. And I just took them into the house and I'm like, okay, that was bold. Be careful. Be careful while you're letting everybody in. But that just shows, to go extra mile, how help comes in many different ways. Help my community or help us help my community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Elijah, where can we find you on social media and how can we support your organization?
Yes, thank you so much. Dr. Elijah Nicholas on all social media forms. My website is 100blacktransmen.com or you can go to elijahnicholas.com. And the way that you can support, number 1 is to register to vote. And number 2 is to vote, register to vote, and then to vote and vote for candidates who support human rights. Right, that's the first thing you can do. The second thing that you can do is if you are connected to a state representative in your or someone in your local municipality that you can connect 100 Black Trans Men with, please let us know. We're doing our reproductive and social justice and health equity think tanks around the country. We'll be starting here in January at the Georgia State Capitol with Representative Park Cannon hosting us, and so we're taking that to several cities around the country. And if you know someone that you can put us in contact with to help us execute on that, please let us know.
Thank you so much. Thank you all of you again for saying yes to this panel. It has just been such a blessing. Nala had to jump off, but thank you for hanging out with us for over 2 hours, y'all. You hung in there. Thank you to all of our viewers. Our winner today is Maya. Maya is our winner for our tumbler today. And so Maya, I'm going to make sure that I get your information so that we can get that tumbler to you. And I will also send those of you, our panelists, I'll also send it to you as well. So thank you again.
I'll be waiting for mine. And congratulations to the winner.
Thank you, everyone. Listen, until next time, we're getting ready to get out of here and do all the things that we have to do on a Saturday. But until we meet again, I want you to stay lifted. I want you to stay motivated. And most of all, I want you to stay inspired. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next time.